Welcome to Try It 3, Counting Raw Data with Categorical Variables. The variables that we're going to be looking at are going to be measured in the same way. They're going to be categorical as the previous couple of tutorials of Try It. The big concept that we're introducing this tutorial is counting the raw data. So in the previous tutorials, you've been presented already with summary tables. And this tutorial is going to focus on counting those raw data so that we can produce what will end up looking as very similar outcome graphs and charts and tables. So those should be familiar. The new challenge is counting the raw data. So let's talk a little bit about the data set. We're going to be using a random sample of from slasher movies. So slasher movies, they're horror movies where everyone dies. So there's lots of blood, there's lots of gore, there's lots of violence, there's lots of screaming, there's lots of running away. And this data set is a random sample of 50 of these slasher films. So of all of the slasher films that have been made, 50 of them were randomly selected. Once a film had been selected into the sample, every character in that film was recorded into this data set. So it turns out that there are, in those 50 films, there were 485 characters. And what the information that we have is for each character, what is their gender? Did they engage in sexual activity in the movie? And what was their survival status? Did they survive or did they die in the movie? Just as a reminder, because it was a random sample, any conclusions that we draw from our sample should relate back to the entire population. It should be true of all slasher movies. This dataset was published by a research by the last name of Welsh in 2010, and we're just borrowing that data. So what are the variables that we've got? We listed 3 variables: the character's gender, their sexual activity, and whether they survived. Let's think about whether each of those are continuous or categorical. So gender was coded as male, female. Those are labels, those are words, those are groups. That's categories. That's categorical data. The sexual activity was coded as either yes, they engaged in sexual activity, or no, they did not engage in sexual activity. So again, we've got words, we've got labels, we've got groups. That's categorical data. The final variable is whether or not they survived, and it's got 2 levels. They either survived or they died. That's labels, that's words, that's groups. That's categorical data. Our 3 variables have all been measured categorically. So let's think about the questions that we can answer by this data. We're going to be, again, asking questions about how many women are in the movie, how many men are in the movies. We then might ask, which is more likely, that women die or that men die? Which is more likely, that women engage in sexual activity or that men engage in sexual activity? So those are the sorts of questions. Why don't you jot down a few questions that you might think about as we're going through this data set. All right, let's go get the data. We're going to use a data set that's stored in the Google Drive. If you're not familiar with Google Drive, it's a place online to create, edit, store, and share documents. You have permission to view the data set. All the students have permission to view this data set, but none of you will be editing directly that data set. My goodness, imagine what a mess that would be if we were all editing the same spreadsheet. In order to edit it, you're going to need to copy and paste the data. Here we are at that Google Sheet. You could either follow the link from the tutorial, the printed tutorial, or the link within the course management system. To copy it and have our own version of it on Excel. I'm going to copy it by making sure I select all. So I'm going to use the Command A to select all, and then Command C to copy. That data is now on my clipboard and I can take it with me to Excel. I'm going to open a blank workbook in Excel and use my keyboard shortcut Command V to paste, and there's my data. We can see that in column A, we have participant IDs, and it looks like the data is currently sorted by the participant ID. In column B, we have the gender of each participant, whether they were male or female. In column C, whether they had sexual activity, whether sexual activity was present, or whether sexual activity was absent. And then in column D, if they survived or died. Wow, you can really see how few survived, can't you? Each row represents a single participant. So here's one character who was male, who was sexually active, and who survived. This seems like a good time to practice our good habits of preserving the raw data. I'm going to select it and copy that data, come down and open a new worksheet and paste that data. I'm going to go back to sheet 1 and double click and call this my raw data sheet, and then come back to sheet 2 and double click, and this will be the visualization sheet. We commented that this data is currently sorted by participant number. Excel's really good at sorting data. It's something that we'll use quite a lot. So I want to practice and make sure that you understand how to do it correctly. And we're also going to learn from our mistakes and do it incorrectly. Let's start by doing it correctly. So what if we wanted to sort this data by gender and put all of the females together and all of the males together? Let's start that. So I'm going to select all of my data, A, B, C, and D, and I'm going to come up under my pull-down menus and choose Data, Sort. It's asking, that's opened up a sort dialog box. The first thing I want to do is say that my list has headers. That just means that the first row has got the variable labels. And now I'm going to come under Sort By, and I'm going to click under Column, and it gives me the labels of the different columns. I'm going to choose Gender and click OK. We can see we've got all of our females at the top now, and as we scroll down, there are all the males. We can see that the participant numbers now skip around. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are females, but 5, 6, and 7 must be males. They must be down in the male group. So we've done that correctly. I'm going to go ahead and undo that and show you how to do it incorrectly. What if we thought, oh, I want to sort by gender. I'm just going to select the column gender. And we did the same steps where we said data, sort. Did you hear Excel beep at you? Excel doesn't beep very often. This is really a big warning that we're about to do something that would really challenge the integrity of our data. So let's take a minute. It says that there is data outside your current selection and it won't be sorted. So it's recognizing that you've selected one column, but that there seem to be other columns that go together. And that if you sort by gender without sticking the participant ID, the sexual activity, and the survival together as a record, that you're going to end up with nonsense. You're going to ruin your data. Let's not listen. Let's say continue with the current selection and choose sort. And it's remembering, okay, sort by gender. My list has header row. Okay. So the column gender is now sorted. And it's been sorted independently of the participant and sexual activity and survival. So remember we said participants 5, 6, and 7 must have been male? Well, we've now sorted them into the female group. This is not good. This data is now meaningless. So we want to be sure that when we are sorting correctly and we're not damaging the integrity of our data. I'm going to go ahead and undo that really quickly. Okay. All right. Do you see, is it back to how it should be? Should we go back and just check against our raw data? Oh yes, that looks exactly the same.